Hello, boys. Hello, girls. You are now listening, if you're on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and SoundCloud, and watching, if you are on YouTube, Peter Talks Wrasslin. This is episode 2. Thank you so much for checking this out. This is the second episode of Peter Talks Wrasslin since the end of Peter and Jake Talks Wrasslin. That made it up to 87 episodes. And now I'm going solo, and because I do a Raw recap, I just go ahead and nip my Monday Night Raw review on Mondays, live after Raw. I also do a podcast called Peter Talks SmackDown too. So those individual entities will still be in play. But Peter Talks Wrasslin will focus on a broad spectrum of topics and opinions and ideas. There's a link below, and I guess I'll use my own Etsy page as a sponsor because I do print shirts. I'm wearing one now of where I'm from. My idea of a periodic table to represent where you're from. I do custom cities as well, and then you also have my other T-shirts. And the name of this Etsy page, again, this podcast will be brought to you by my Etsy page. It's called Cut the Music at Cut the Music Prints. One word, cutthemusicprints.etsy.com. Where I have an array of shirts and ideas that are on there for purchase. The past couple of weeks, you've seen me wear a North Carolina State wrestling shirt. And then I have like some political stuff on there as well. I'm making no money doing this podcast. I haven't made a single dime since I've been doing either Peter and Jake, Peter's Raw Recap, or Peter Talks SmackDown. But if you want a t-shirt and even custom tees, I do custom tees for like $35. It's one color. So whatever you want in one color, just hit me up. Again, down below is Etsy, cutthemusic.etsy.com. And my email is for if you want custom prints or a personalized periodic table of your city, and or a custom state that says wrestling. Cut the music prints. Well, cutthemusic.etsy.com, and my email is cutthemusicprints. Not prints, but print, Prints, prints, all one word, at gmail.com. And then without further ado, I want to go into something that I think is important, and it's going to make or break this podcast moving forward. It's something very important. It's my I guess the way that I've been approaching doing these podcasts recently, and it's been brought to me by my homie Luke Williams of the band Born Hollow. That's me fucking around. That's his music at the beginning of the podcast. He's a talented musician in a really awesome band. I ran into him last night. He just happened to be at this one bar called NYP. And the first thing he said to me, he called me a negative Nancy. He goes, "Man, you're becoming such a negative Nancy. And it's kind of hard to listen to you because you're so negative about everything." And I caught myself, and I had to think about it for a sec because, I have my ideas and thoughts on wrestling, and, I could say, "Oh, I just tell you how it is." I don't know. It's all assumption. It really is all assumption, but it's assumption through formula. I think when I first started doing these podcasts, even with me and Jake, I think one of our mainstays, I guess one of the things that I wanted to address in or even my presentation was going to be anti-complaining. I remember you can go back in the files of Peter and Jake Talks Wrasslin, episode 1 and 2, and me talking about how I wanted to do a podcast that wasn't so negative and that wasn't always complaining, a podcast that wasn't always looking at the bad side of wrestling. And it started off that way, between like before Jake jumped on and like having little riffs. I mean, as a consumer of a program, it's not 100%. You're gonna have issues. So that's what it was at first. And then I will admit, I would say even the last Raw recap, even the reaction video to Stephanie McMahon and Shane McMahon running WWE Raw, that I do admit that I have become what Luke called me out on being. He called me out. He fucking called me out. And I do apologize. If you're a listener and or a watcher of this show, and you know, and even to the degree of last week's Peter Talks Wrestling 1, and to the point where Jay Giles, he felt like I was bringing up even with him this idea that he's gone too positive, and that he hasn't, and that, like, I've sort of brought back in our discussion, I guess, Hater Jay, and I got to listen to I listened to the episode today, the recent Keita and Jay show. In fact, I will be on their show. I'll be their special guest next week. And I think I may do a simulcast. I haven't really decided yet, but I'm thinking I'm going to put the podcast that I'm doing with them on to this. It's not 100% sure, but next week tune in to the Keita and Jay show featuring moi. But back to Jay, and I go, man, like maybe Luke has a point. Maybe I am a little too negative. I don't know what I want to say. I want to say that it's not one thing. All right. Before the podcast, right? Before I started doing any of these podcasts, I was just a wrestling consumer. I just watched wrestling, and it was like, because I was on like a 10-year hiatus, and then in 2007 I decided to start watching the product again, right? And I got more into it and more into it and more into it. And I remembered how much I enjoyed it. When I was a kid, I think it was maybe 2-3 different times that I started and stopped watching wrestling because I either got tired of it, or I was kind of picked on, or it was a couple of things. But I got to a point to where I was around a bunch of wrestling fans that just took it a little too seriously. And the product to me had gotten stale. And it just so happens it was going on during the Attitude Era. Ironically, everyone sings his praises, but I was in college. My interest started to shift a little bit towards girls and more sports and things of that nature. And I lived in a dorm with these guys who were just so into wrestling, to where you had feuds in the dorms between Team WCW, which was like the NWO guys, the guys who watched WCW, and you had WWE guys who were part of Generation X, D-Generation X, and they would have literal, I mean, not literal fist fights, but they would have like literal like battle royals and like matches in the hallways. And sometimes you even became an innocent bystander to some of their antics and how they would feud all the time for life. Suck it. You would hear it all the time. And I was like, this is obnoxious. I'm the fuck out of here. Because I'm like, the last thing I need to do is catch a belly to belly suplex in this dorm. You know what I'm saying? Over, by some excitable wrestling fan. So even part of me getting out was like, well, if I showed that I had any interest in wrestling whatsoever, I would probably get my ass kicked. So let me it'd be like if your favorite color was red and blue and you decided to live in like Los Angeles and you were just like, dude, I'm just not even going to wear any color just so I won't get my ass either kicked or shot, right? It was the same with this. And I stopped because I was scared I was going to get my ass handed to me. And I didn't want to let out that I was actually a wrestling fan, as funny as that sounds. But it lasted from 1997 to 2007. And when I started watching it again, I found out about these things called podcasts. And I found out that there was things on YouTube that I could watch and get opinions and analysts, things of that nature. One was Off the Rope Show with the Slag Daddy, and I still watch his commentary. He's not with the Off the Rope Show anymore because he moved to Virginia. I actually have an interview with the Slag Daddy. If you go Peter Talks Wrestling with, there's a really cool interview with me and him. But like he was someone that I was going to see on a regular basis after Raw, after SmackDown. They were uploaded that night, and I would just have fun listening. And it's like, wow, this is crazy. Like guys are talking about this online because I had no idea of this thing called the IWC and shit, right? And then it got to a point where Don Tony. I was listening to his podcast, Don Tony and Kevin Castle, and then I was tuning into like TV Tracks, which is like a YouTube page where they would select certain podcasts you listen to, and then you eventually just check out the entire podcast altogether. And then the Solid Monster sounds off, and I still listen to the Solid Monster. I still keep up with the Slick Daddy, and then there's also PS Powers I now listen to, and even before I started, I was listening to PW Torch. I was listening to Cheap Heat, but like I was like, man, it's so cool. But after a while, with all of these respective podcasts, they started to kind of wear thin on me. Because I felt like maybe, just maybe, they're not looking at it a perspective of enjoying the show, right? They weren't really enjoying it. They were being too micro, nitpicky, and things of that nature. And then I started doing my podcast. And before I started doing my podcast, I was like, well, let me create a podcast where I'm not so negative, right? Talk about 360, where I was going to have fun, look at the good parts of the wrestling shows, and go from there. It's one thing to be a wrestling fan, someone who goes to the shows, and also too, I started doing the podcast because I got to the point where I wanted to talk more wrestling. I wanted to talk to people. I ran into Jake, and we started talking some wrestling, and then we started doing the podcast. But even before then, there was nobody. I mean, nobody I knew. I think they was showing Raw at this place called Geeksboro, and I would run into people and try to talk wrestling with them. But like, you'll find out that a lot of wrestling fans are either really odd or like extremely introverted. So interaction isn't as smooth as it can possibly be, because I find that I'm kind of like a weirdo to the fact that like I'm a wrestling fan that that isn't I guess that isn't socially awkward. I mean, I'm not dissing anyone. I mean, there's a million people who aren't socially awkward, but like it's such a select group of people that enjoy the sports entertainment or wrestling that it's really hard to come by. So if you catch someone who has I wouldn't say the audacity, what the courage to wear their interest of wrestling on their sleeve, aka or i.e. people who wear wrestling tees like John Cena tees or like Undertaker tees or like CM Punk tees, Lucha Underground tees, those people, you walk up to them and you almost decide almost immediately it was a bad idea to walk up to these people. Even yesterday at work, I work at a screen printing shop where there's a big old window. I'm pulling shirts and all that shit, but there's a window in front of me, so when I turn around, I can see who's out front, and I seen a dude in a Seth Rollins shirt. And I just wanted to run outside so bad. I just wanted to run outside and be like, yo, man, did you see Payback, man? Did you see Payback? Right? And that's where I am. Even to the point where I got my little wrestling shirt, or I bought my first wrestling shirt was Lucha Underground. I had to get one, and anywhere I go, any opportunity I can get, I'm talking wrestling. I mean, like, people are looking at me like, yo, you talking wrestling? And I'm like, yeah. I'm talking as much serious wrestling and wrestling industry stuff as I am talking about like my Indiana Pacers in the NBA or my Carolina Panthers in the fucking NFL or Carolina basketball and NCAA and just all NCAA sports and college sports. Like, people talk about politics. Like, people talk about like everything, cooking, guns, like just subculture or mainstream media. People talk about Game of Thrones. People who are talking about Breaking Bad. I'm talking about wrestling to people who could give a complete fuck about wrestling. And I don't care. I'm talking at them about wrestling, to the point where even where I live, like, they know if I get an opportunity to talk it or just bring it up, they would kind of roll their eyes. But they'll see that I'm so serious about it that I've actually gotten some people to check it out. But before I even did my podcast, I was that way. The more I did my podcast, the more open I became. But even on top of the open I became about wrestling, as a podcaster, just like the podcast I listened prior to that grew kind of not stale on me, but kind of get at me because it became more nitpick stuff where I would tune into Sleg Daddy. I'd be like, I'll just finish watching an episode of Raw. I'm like, there's no fucking way he's going to say something bad about this show. There's no way. I stopped listening to Don Tony and Kevin Castle because they were just like, those fucking guys. Like, I can't even get through 5 minutes of how much bitching they do. But I was like, there's no way. This is a great show. And then he'd be like, oh, man, damn. Like, he'll come out and just nitpick and chew away at the episode, right? And I'm like, no, but it was great. What was so bad about this episode? I totally enjoyed myself. Like, what the fuck? And when I became the podcaster, I became an analyst. I became someone who's looking and poking at and remembering things and looking at the glass half empty, looking at the world of wrestling more skeptically and more like prove me wrong rather than entertain me, right? I'm like, prove me wrong because I watched the show. And I know that this thing is going to happen this way because of this and this. And why I feel this way is because these guys are idiots. I would have never in a million years would have imagined that becoming a podcaster, becoming someone who likes, a certain genre of something, right? Like it enough to where I put myself in front of a microphone and or a camera and talk about it and put it out there to the world to consume. Now, I don't have a lot of people listening or watching this show. And even if they're watching, I don't know, you can go to the YouTube, your stats and shit, and you can see how many people are watching, and you can see how much of the videos people are watching. And I remember going back one time and seeing like an average of 1 minute of my videos being watched. And it could be real discouraging. And then, you can't really count on any of the counts. I mean, I don't know. I could get these thumbs up, thumbs down. The people that I interact with, I feel like I do my podcast for you. The Ronnie S's, the Music Destinations, the Luke Williams. Hell, Luke Williams is responsible for this show right now. Keita Hubbard, a couple of other homies that go back and forth with me and just listen from afar. Whether you're in India, a lot of people in India love what I do. The small amount, like between 20 to like 60 people, or in Australia or in the UK or in New York. I see where people are listening to my stuff, and those are the mainstays: India, Australia, and America. And I don't want to turn off my audience. I want to be critical, but I don't want my podcast to be so critical that it turns your way. And maybe, just maybe, was part of the demise of Peter and Jake Talks Wrestling. Because Jake was someone that was more or less not satisfied with the product, but he didn't want to be as negative as I was. But at the same time, he had a little bit of like wrestling elitism about him, that where it was like, well, I don't go that. It's almost like a water balloon where I was one thing and he was another, and then I was one thing and he was another. But I think it's just a natural thing to do, to become once you become a podcaster. I think it's when you become an analyst, when you become someone who studies a certain product, especially the entertainment world, whether it's comic books, again, television shows, movies, theater, you nitpick. And I would suggest any and everybody that listens to my show, I would say start a podcast. I would say start a podcast. At least do, or just listen to yourself talk. Like turn on a computer, turn on your iPad, turn on your phone, your video, or what have you, or get in front of a microphone and just like talk to yourself about what you just watched. I think over a certain amount of time, you become more critical because you're becoming more invested into the idea that your opinions matter, on top of expecting better from the product that you are starting to talk about. As a podcaster, I am an analyst. As a fan, I'm someone who just consumes the product. And it's kind of hard to separate the two, but it's easy to it's what I want to say. It's easy to separate the two. It's hard to keep the two apart, right? It's hard to keep the two apart. it's easy. How I want to say this? I keep fucking up. I'm fucking up, y'all. What I want to say, as a fan and as a critic, it's easy to separate the two, but it's very hard to bring the two together. It took all that to say that shit. It's very hard to bring these two together and have them coexist without some sort of conflict. Because as a fan, I want to be like, yeah, that was pretty cool. But as an analyst, I go, well, they could have done this and they could have done this. It wasn't done in the way that I think it should have been done, or, not giving the ultimate trust into the professionals at this shit. And I'm on record, and I say this all the time. I am not at all trying to book wrestling. I'm not at all trying to play the role of booker. That's why you never hear me you never hear me do like fantasy scenarios. You next to never hear me do that. Whenever I hear people do fantasy bookings, I just get turned off. I don't want to hear that crap. So why would you want to hear me? But the analyst in me, and maybe this is what Luke was addressing to me, was the fact that, bruh, you're becoming harder and harder to listen to, and it's not getting any better with how negative you are about the product. And I'll be honest, if I never, ever, ever started this podcast, I probably would never be as critical or negative as Luke said, as I've become. And I think it's just a natural progression. I apologize to my fans or the people who have turned off, who are getting turned off by these rants. And I know there's some people who want to hear that stuff. And I'm not going to just abandon it. I'm not going to abandon. This isn't like some podcast to say that from here on out, I'm going to be positive Peter. I'm going to go from negative Nancy to positive Peter. No, I mean, I feel like moving forward, I'm going to be more lenient. I like to try to be lenient and to understand, have my points, have my issues. But over the past couple of months of me kind of crying, I think it's time that I just check myself. Check myself before I wreck myself. I don't want to lose any listeners. And Luke, if you're listening, I know you are. I thank you so much for hitting me with the truth. Even though it was like a foreign object, you blindsided me with the loaded boot. It was something that knocked some sense into me. And I mean, I got some stuff I want to talk about now, and I'll probably do a run shot of what's going on in the WWE or other wrestling world, what have you. But I really wanted to talk to you guys about where I've been mentally, where I came from to where I am today, to where I can move forward, even with Peter Talks Wrasslin. Like, it's one thing to start the show and like, okay, business as usual, but this is a new era for me. Like, that sound like the WWE. This is a new era. After a year and a half, almost 2 years. I mean, SummerSlam would be 2 years that I've been doing this. And even though there's other guys that's been doing it forever, 5 years, 4 years. I mean, you got guys who do theirs weekly and they're in the hundreds. Their episodes are in the hundreds, right? I'm up to like 60 of SmackDown, 59. And I'm up to 2 of Peter Talks. But I'm also leaving 87 weeks of podcasting behind me. I got 325, now 26, I think that is, videos and uploads on my PJTW Central site. And also, take out the live reactions and stuff, that means I would have I still have over 300 audio files on my SoundCloud into my RSS feed. That's a lot of fucking podcasts, y'all. That is a lot of podcasts. From when I started to where I am now, I am completely different. I used to do it on this fucking shitty cell phone. From the audio, then going to my shitty iPhone with limited fucking space, to now being on an iPad that kind of fucks up every once in a while. But like, I went from doing takes and like listening to myself and doing takes to like doing live streams. I am a completely different person. The confidence that exudes from doing this, the fact that I'm able to cut promos basically on people, like, you know, my conversational skills have gotten so much better. I've been able to form sentences. I've been able to, like, even more so speak publicly, because this is public speaking, right? Even though I'm not streaming this live right now. And I didn't want to just stream it live because I wanted to sort of talk to you guys about me. I mean, like, I wanted to allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Peter. Peter. I used to I smoke cigarettes. But I didn't want to go live because I didn't want to get a bunch of questions. I just wanted to sit down and have a one-on-one and get y'all to get what to expect moving forward. Because, yeah, man, Luke did. That was awesome, man. That was awesome that you actually called me out. And now I have a foundation. I have purpose now for Peter Talks Wrasslin. My purpose is to be a little more well-rounded, a little less bitchy, a lot of things, and just be able to point out things, but for the most part, entertain you guys. I want to entertain all of you, any and everybody that's listening, and I want to make sure I get a personable, whether it's Justin, JSB and them, and all those guys and all those girls that are listening to this. I want to entertain you. Allow me to entertain you. Give me some ideas. Send me some questions, right? Do a bunch of things. That's what Peter Talks Wrasslin is going to be all about. It's going to be all about testing the waters, the new thing, to expand off what I've already created, to get you here, to get you to fucking lift your phone, go to your fucking podcast and hit my shit. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. It's like when someone buys my shirt, like, there's so many shirts out there, and you wanted my shirt. That's so badass. You fucking went into your pocket, pulled out cash, and gave me your money for something that came out of my fucking head. And now, like, you're on YouTube, you done fucking, open up your laptop or turned on your fucking PC. You went to YouTube, and there's trillions and trillions of videos. Trillions on there. And you came to my shit. That's crazy. That's nuts. I want to keep you guys around, whether it's 2 of you or whether it's 200 of you. I like to hope one day I get to 200. I like to get to 2,000. Hell, I like to get to 200,000. I like to get to 2 million. That'll never happen. But if I could continue on a path, the power of positivity, but the path where I could entertain you and give you points and views that you can consume, and so on and so forth, I'll be forever grateful. And I know that I have the ceiling isn't there. Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit, man. And I don't even know if I should even talk about anything. I mean, yeah, I think this Peter Talks Wrasslin is going to be just this. What's the one I want to use? Oh man, soliloquy. I don't know. Monologue. I don't know. I can't even think of the word, but it's something that deals with, you know, coming to grips and giving you like what to expect moving forward, a sense of air of where we're gonna go. There's a lot of wrestling going on. New Japan, Naito, and the Los, I can never say that name, the Ungovernables. They're like super over in New Japan. Ishii's about to be, he's the next man up. Jay Lethal is still the ROH champ, right? But it seems that Dalton Castle is picking up some mad steam. NXT, you know, Finn Balor just lost the belt to Samoa Joe. And we have a new champion in Asuka. I don't know how she's faring out. She's awesome, but she's no Bailey. You know, call-ups, the new call-ups and how they're doing. You know, I think what's happening, what they're doing with Apollo Crews, I think they're doing all right with Apollo Crews. They're doing the classic, get him in a ring with a jobber, have him go over, and move forward. But I just hope it doesn't get too stale after a while. Because when you got these ultra competitive matches versus these squash matches, the squash matches, and if you don't really define this guy as like an ultimate like badass that sets him apart from the rest of the crowd, I think the crowd can just get bored. So, you know, tread lightly with what you're doing with Kevin, with Apollo Crews. Baron Corbin, again, what they're doing with him and Ziggler, the fact that Ziggler has lost his steam isn't doing Corbin any favors. And there's a lot of Dolph Ziggler fans out there. But again, he's lost a lot of steam over the past year and a half. And the decisions that he's made, I mean, yeah, he's on TV and all that stuff, but he's being booked as a geek. And it's all because of his own actions. He's still getting a paycheck. He's still doing the thing. He's not getting buried. But I think the Dolph Ziggler that everyone wants to see and everyone wants to sort of get behind as a champion or a contender, I just think that's come and gone. I think I think he's in a realm where he can't escape. Very much like Ryback and what he's going through right now, and how he's being booked, and how he's talking about his contract, and how he thinks there should be equal pay. But on top of this equal pay and all this kind of stuff, he's still not happy with the way that he thinks he should be booked. He wouldn't be kicking and screaming like this if he was booked in the manner, in a vein that he wanted. He wouldn't. He wouldn't at all. He'd be so content. He'd be so happy. So yeah, he can sound like a sourpuss all he wants. He makes some good points, but I think ultimately, he just doesn't really have the tools to be a big star. And you can't blame the WWE for that, and you can't ultimately blame him for that. I think there's a common ground. There's a middle that both respective parties have to address and confront, and then move forward. Whether the WWE answers to what he wants versus him going along with what they have planned for him, or just ultimately leaving the company. You know, i.e. CM Punk, i.e. Wade Barrett, and so on and so forth. Right? What else is happening? Titus O'Neil. I think what happened with him on Monday Night Raw was unfair to him. You put him in this over-the-top battle royal, and you don't set him up. You don't set him up to where we're excited. It's like, oh yeah, here's this Titus O'Neil, but before we even get Titus O'Neil, he's in these kind of weird trolling type quit smoking campaigns. And I go like, that's not how you bring him back. Or he's like a tour guide for Orlando. So we already know that he's coming back, or that his suspension is done. He's back on TV. But like, he comes back, and it's like, well, the excitement is sort of, it's almost like catching a stone cold stunner, like the kick to the gut first, I wish, I hope over a period of time they correct it, but you would have to agree that his return wasn't as grand as it should be. Couple of other things. You have, well, what we got here? Rich Brennan being fired unceremoniously. I don't get it. I mean, it's right here why, but he started off at NXT, then he becomes like the guy on SmackDown, and then Ronaldo takes his spot. He's relegated to doing backstage stuff, and then they just cut him loose. I don't know. I honestly don't know why they cut him loose. I liked his character. I don't know what they're looking for unless they're going to just go find another girl to fill in for him. I mean, I hope the guy can actually find a job somewhere else. The WWE is a great platform for those who don't pan out. You still can go and get a job, The WWE and NXT signing Nakamura, and I'll say this. The difference between Nakamura and New Japan, the difference between Nakamura and New Japan and NXT, the difference between Nakamura and New Japan, NXT onto the main roster, is that once you cross that WWE boundary, when you become a sports entertainer, you're not going to be put when you're a foreigner, like Cesaro. You have to conform to what they want from you. There's a blanket of expectations that if you're from another country, you need to be as much, especially the communication part, because they're going to give you a script to read, right? You got to be as adaptable as like the most, English-speaking person on the planet. So when Nakamura comes to NXT, there is a weird disconnection. I think people just know that he's coming over, the hype. People don't even know, but they just know to be excited about him, or people who been watching him just like me since New Japan Wrestle Kingdom 9. You can see it. Like, there's things that people just aren't reacting to that I think they should be. And, I imagine Vince was like, why are they so excited about this guy? And the average booking of a Japanese person is the fact, World War II. That's why they're always kind of booked as heels. Like, there's this old old ideology that we're still mad at the Japanese for Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor. I turned gold dust all of a sudden. But once he comes to the WWE, he's going to have to talk. They're not going to give him a mouthpiece. I think the manager spot is delegated to specific projects. And I something I just read about Baron. What the hell is his name? Damn it! What the hell is his name? Man, from the Primetime Players. It's gonna hit me. I know you're saying it right now. You're saying his name right now. You're totally saying his name right now, but I can't hear you because this has already been recorded. Oh my God, Darren Young. There we go. The repackaging of Darren Young and actually giving him a mouthpiece, and Bob Backlund of all people. I'd imagine Pat Patterson would have been. I guess would have made more sense. But they go with Bob Backlund. But like, using a mouthpiece manager in that role, yeah, like that. That's what they're deciding to do. But I think very much like Cesaro, Nakamura's going to have to come over and grind his teeth, and that's where it gets a little slippery. He's a badass. He should come over and just be an entertaining badass. And that's why I was so negative Nancy about that, that he's going to have to grind his teeth. And I know, you just look at any and all the guys, the Rusevs, even though he's pretty witty, and that's the thing. That's the thing that he has. He's so witty. He's so quick that he can actually combine what they're scripted to his actual character, and it turns out great. I mean, he's the #1 contender for the U.S. belt, and I think that's a great role for him. I hope they move up the ladder with him and make him a badass once again. And then with all the League of Nations guys, Alberto Del Rio, again, he has the potential to be an amazing babyface. And Sheamus has, I don't know about Sheamus. I can't say anything nice, or I can't say anything to where the expectations are really high about Sheamus. I don't know what they can do with Sheamus. They got to just change up his whole gimmick. I think they changed his gimmick to a heel and the "you look stupid" thing with the braids and all that stuff, but they have to do something else with him or just let him go. I think his gimmick has reached a ceiling as a heel. I think even his gimmick in the ring, I love to see his stiff style. Him and AJ Styles had an amazing match because it's like, yo, hit me, I'll hit you. But you can only squeeze but so much out of Sheamus to make people remotely interested in him. And I wanted to talk about one more thing. I talk about one more thing. Because I could talk about Raw and all that stuff and storylines and maybe talk about other wrestlers and how I see them. The AJ Styles, your Dean Ambrose. You know how I feel about them. But I think moving forward with Peter Talks Wrasslin, you'll probably see me a little less antagonistic about it. A little less whiny about it, okay? I want to entertain you. If I had balls to juggle, you'd be seeing that while I'm giving my my opinions and my critiques. But let's talk about, for maybe 5 minutes, Adam Rose and the wellness policy, or even like the idea Titus O'Neil's suspension. Whenever in the NFL, the most hated man in football, he goes by the name of Roger Goodell, because the NFL Players Association, and all their infinite wisdom and fucking intellect, decided to sign a CBA that gave Roger Goodell complete and total power of any and all judgments that go down in the NFL. He's not only the judge, he's the jury, he's the lawyer, he's the bailiff, all of it. He governs himself. There's no panel behind him to say, hey, Roger, you might want to think again about that. He doesn't have that at all. So when he lays down the law, he checks himself and he goes, I'm good. But they sign off to it in the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement. And I think that had a lot to do with them turning a blind eye to performance-enhancing drugs. Obviously. I mean, you're talking the NFL. If there's not no HGH going on down there, deer antler, some steroids, you had to be crazy. You had to be absolutely crazy. But it ain't about what's right sometimes. It's not about what you deserve. I think it's about negotiation and leverage. And Roger Goodell obviously wanted ultimate power. And he used the performance-enhancing element of the back and forth to be able to put himself in the leverage of the power that he has today. Vince McMahon is very much Roger Goodell. But the difference between Vince McMahon and Roger Goodell is that he's not protecting 32 owners. He's protecting his own brand, his own organization, his own entity of entertainment. It's only him. The difference between Vince McMahon and Roger Goodell is that there is no union in wrestling. There's no wrestlers association of collective, like-minded individuals that want fairness with the wrestlers. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no union. In the NFL, the NBA, and almost any and all professional athletics, they have a union. They have someone who's collecting the money, who is watching over the rulings and the suspensions and all that stuff. People who are protecting and making things fair for these athletes. And wrestling, that does not exist. The idea of wrestling's unionizing. I was listening to the Jim Ross show, and the idea, someone sent a question like, why isn't there a union? He's like, they laughed at the idea, like, Jim Ross. It's like, that'd never happen. Like, there'd be the apocalypse of first show up before the wrestlers get a union. And then the last thing, the difference between Roger Goodell and Vince McMahon is that Vince McMahon has I just had it in my head. Oh, damn it! What's the last difference? The last difference is yes. He doesn't even. There's no rhyme or reason to why Vince does things and suspends guys. Like, there's no law that can step in and say, like, no, dude, you can't do that, right? You can't do that. What you're gonna suspend this guy for putting his hand for what? You can't. No. Vince, you can't do that. That is against the law, and there is no union that's even needed for that to happen. If someone says, "Hey, my job sucks because this happened, and I gotta fucking pay the piper because of this petty ass motherfucker," like, there's no one to step in and be like, "No, dude, no. This is your show. We get it. This is your gig. We get it. But, like, you can't do that." He doesn't have that at all. So at any discretion, at any discretion that he has at any moment in time, it could be from someone putting their hands on him at the wrong time to someone, like, doing something, saying something on the microphone he shouldn't say, or kind of injuring someone else, something that probably has nothing to do with the ring whatsoever. He can just make up his mind and be like, yo, this is what's going down. And the wrestler has to take it. So if you look at what's happening with Ryback, which can potentially become something ugly, you look at Adam Rose, you look at Billy Gunn, you look at Titus O'Neil, you look at any and all the people who have been suspended, Hornswoggle, or released. How many other wellness policies of bullshit that's happening right now? But anyway, like, you look at all those people, there is no CBA. There is no governing body. There is no fact checker. There's no protection for these wrestlers. And as much as a lot of these wrestlers want to defend themselves, very much like Adam Rose actually putting out his doctor's note or like putting out a couple of tweets that he had to actually take down to defend himself. Because these guys can't even defend themselves. They're like, oh yeah, it's on the website, wellness policy. Right? This motherfucker fucked up. He has to go for a couple of weeks. And it could be one of a million reasons why. Apparently, Rose was taking something that gave the side effects or in a test. He wasn't doing anything illegal. He just happened to grab the wrong drug, and it's like eating a poppy seed bagel, right? And being like taking a piss test and it showed up positive for heroin use. But he can't even defend that it was an honest mistake. He can't even defend it. It's incredible. And anyone who's up in arms about this stuff, it's like, well, I think it's up to the wrestlers. Very much like it's up to professional athletes to get the lawyers, to get the law behind them, to get that protection. I mean, you got people walking on fucking eggshells just to be able to at least perform at any taping or at a live show. Got to stay on your P's and Q's. That's an entire book. Well, there's an ebook by JTG talking about heat and how easy it is to get heat. And you got wrestlers walking around scared as hell to either lose their spot or their job. Meanwhile, Vince McMahon is wielding this flaming sword of judgment to where if you get out of line, you have to fall to that sword. And it's crazy. And we can pitch a fit and all of these things all we want. But as suck as it sounds, it boils down to the wrestlers. The wrestlers have to step up and do this. It's on the wrestlers. And maybe one day, sooner than say what Jim Ross was talking about, that they're going to buck up, and they're going to man up, and then they're going to unionize. What's going to happen after that is all up to the powers that be. And I think how unregulated the WWE is, I think if the right money goes in a certain angle, very much like the PEDs case that happened with the MLB and how Congress stepped into this shit because it was the Wild West in baseball, and the people within baseball was like they couldn't even control it themselves. And I feel like it's going to happen in the WWE. I feel like it's going to happen with WWE, or, I mean, WWE being the crystal castle that it is, it would be the first and maybe the only one that people are going to wise up and be like, look, you know what, WrestleMania is the third largest American event there is? Event. Super Bowl, you know what I'm saying? Like Burning Man and all that shit. Like WWE is the top 3. It's like right after the Super Bowl and possibly like, you know, the NBA Finals or some shit. People are going to see how much money this place is making. They're going to look and they want to see how the workers are being treated. But it's going to take a brave soul to step out and be like, no more. I'm getting a lawyer. I'm lawyering up. And there's going to be some major changes around these here parts. And it's going to have to be a big name, too. It's going to have to be the likes of a John Cena, who ain't going to do it because he's sitting pretty. Randy Orton, who ain't going to do it because he's sitting pretty. A Roman Reigns, he ain't going to do it because he's sitting pretty. You know? It's going to have to take a really big name. But these guys are not selfless. Selfless at all. They are full of themselves. And the spot that they're at is the spot that they're going to keep. And they're not going to think of anybody else because as soon as they get out of line, someone very easily could just step in and take their spot. So that's all I wanted to address. My whole beef about the new era is, the opportunity to be able to move forward, to take on something new. It really bothers me that they stuck to the old regime, the same old song and dance. It really bothers me. Get rid of the authority. Get rid of anybody. It's something as simple as looking at the NXT model and saying, hey, this impartial babyface general manager works wonders for the business. We are in a world of where conflict rules. It's all about conflict. When shows like Cops can be on for like 50 fucking years, when shows like Jerry Springer are still on the air, the Kardashians and reality television, and any and all that, it just, that just like conflict, the way that cartoons are even made today, that like you have the asshole that is the antagonist, like the real antagonist. We're in this world of conflict. Conflicts and sex sells. Controversy sells. Beyonce writes a fictional song about being cheated on by Jay-Z. People lose their mind. They lose their ever-living mind. They're talking about that shit more than they talk about their kids' grades. Because it's conflict. And the McMahons' egos that want to be in front of the camera and create this conflict between siblings, sibling rivalries and whatnot. This is what it is. This is how it makes sense to them. Not only are we the McMahons, but we need to have the conflict, this family feud. And I'm like, no, we've seen it already. We've seen it so many times, over and over and over, that we don't want to see it any longer. So my biggest grief, without sounding like a whiny baby, is to the idea that if you're going to tell me that there's going to be this new era, you're going to keep the same commentary, and you're going to keep the same McMahon overshadowing all the talent, and the fact that you're booking some of these guys into different corners with no real bright light at the end of the tunnel, and you're trying to sell me that this is a new era, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. And I have to give it at least a year to see if Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Neville, Big E Langston, Bo Dallas, AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, Nakamura, Finn Balor, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Rusev, Titus O'Neil. If all of these names are in a prominent position moving forward 8 to 10 to 12 months from now, or all of a sudden there's this whole other batch of people coming in because so many people have either A, lost their push, or B, gotten fired, or C, have nothing. One can only tell. And this is me going, prove me wrong. This is me, I don't want to be that way. I trust me, I don't want to be that way. But it's kind of hard not to. Even from all what I told you earlier, from the fan to becoming the analyst. It's going to be difficult for me to feel any different about the product and what my expectations are. My expectations are high. They're even more high now because I like this new crop of guys. Your Enzo Amore's, your Colin Cassidy's. I like these guys. I like them a lot. And I do hope the best for them. But I watched the show. And I'm not going to be surprised. I'm not going to get myself hyped up. And I'm not going to post fake photos of AJ Styles holding the WWE Championship. I'm not going to have my my hopes high on Finn Balor and the Bullet Club all of a sudden showing up. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to look at Uhaa Nation now Apollo Crews like, oh yeah, he's going to be, in the title picture not too long from now. I'm sorry. I have to sit and watch and wait and look at the process. Nakamura. I want to feel really good about this. I want to, but they haven't given me reason over the past couple of years to get excited about new talent. You can go back a year ago and the entire roster that they had is completely different than it is now. And you can go a year before that and the roster is different. The only mainstays, the only people that are still in play, major players that aren't injured is that are injured and not injured. John Cena, Randy Orton, Big Show, Kane, Chris Jericho. Those guys are still there. Everyone else has been moved around and shifted and even fired and whatnot. So I just pray, and you look at Roman Reigns, you look at your Dean Ambrose, you look at your Seth Rollins. Yeah, they're the newer guys into play, and they will be the next Kanes and Big Shows and John Cena's and Randy Orton's. But man, there's a whole lot of other talent out there that wants that big shot and that could carry the load just as much. And I'll end episode 2 on this. And I talked for an hour. I didn't think I was going to talk that long. I talked a little bit about wrestling. I thought I was just going to talk about me and me moving forward. But I hope you're not mad. I hope you're still listening. They done called the law. So again, this podcast, this vlog is brought to you by cutthemusic.etsy.com. Again, the link is below. Check out what I got, man. I'm going to have some more stuff up there shortly. But for now, I got like Snapcode gear. If you ever see me wear like my Snapcode shirt or seen this floating around anywhere. Snapcode, I got a couple of Bernie Sanders shirts. I got a anti-Trump shirt that says Tuck Frump. I got a Vote Hillary. It's Hillary Banks from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air playing like Vote Hillary Clinton, Hillary Banks. I got this shirt. It's a periodic table that I can also make into your own city with your own area code and what have you. And then I have my state wrestling shirt, the wrestling North Carolina shirt that I have that I can also do in other states as well. Ronnie Simpson, he ordered a New York one that is on its way right now. He should have it by Friday. And buddy, if you get it, take a photo, send me the photo, all right? Send me the photo of you wearing it, all right? Because that's how shit gets marketed, marketed. So yeah, go by, again, the link is below, and my email is below as well if you want your own custom one color print of anything. Just send me emails. It's only 30 to $35 depending on the color and the size of the shirt. My Twitter account is my email is cutthemusicprints@gmail. That's below. So you can find me Ellen Japanese, LINJAPANESE. Yeah. Ellen Japanese on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, PJTW Central is my wrestling Twitter as well. Hit the thumbs up or thumbs down button. It doesn't matter. I just hope that you can express yourself one way or another. Leave a comment below. Asking questions. I don't know. You can ask me anything. I don't care. You can share. You can actually put this on your Facebook. You can put this on your Twitter. You can put this on your SoundCloud, right? You can throw this on whatever you got. Just share it. That's how we can build the community, the fan base here. And and hit the subscription button. If you're listening, add me to your favorites playlist, whether iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, even if on Tumblr, and hit the Podbean and give it a rating, on iTunes or something. If you give me a rating, that'd be awesome. That's all logarithms saying that, like, when people type wrestling and wrestling talk, I can move up the list, if you will. Is there anything else? So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Again, support the link. You'll be supporting me. I'm not asking for money. I'm actually going to give you something that you will absolutely love, like a t-shirt. Again, share, thumbs up, do all those things. Is there anything I'm missing out on? Something I want. Yes, again, next week I will be on the Keita and Jay show. I'll be the special guest Tuesdays. I guess that's what they're calling it now. Next up will be Peter Talks SmackDown episode 59B. Because again, I did one for the Go Home show, the SmackDown Go Home show for Payback, but it was ass. It was so ass. I had to take it down. So episode 59, which will be week 60, will be up this Sunday. Okay, so if there's nothing else, that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. See you for SmackDown, and watch out for those foreign objects. Peace.